Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We love our animals. I honestly, I got to tell you, sometimes, most times, I can't wait to go home just to see my dog and hang out with my cats, and we sit on the
Aw.
couch together. It's just their family.
Oh, they are. They are. It's so nice to have a family that, runs the door and greets you and is so happy you're home. It doesn't matter if you've been gone for 20 minutes or 2 days, but you get the same greeting. But it's just a lovely feeling to just, can you imagine if human beings greeted each other that way? You would
Oh my
probably have a
gosh.
lot more happy marriages if like everybody greeted each other when they came into, oh, I love you. I love you. I'm so happy you're home. You're perfect. You're wonderful. Thank you for being alive.
And we should. So
Right?
take that lesson from our animals.
Yes.
You're somebody that works with animals all the time. We're going to talk about the sense of safety surrounding our animals.
Mhm.
And you're the executive director of the Human Animal Connection.
Mhm.
Joining us today is Jeannie Joseph, PhD. Welcome, Jeannie. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Love having you on every single time. Before we go into the sense of safety with animals, tell us again the Human Animal Connection. What type of organization is that?
It's a nonprofit organization, and we do free therapy visits to people in need. So that could be high school students, veterans, doctors and nurses, anybody who is being stressed or even traumatized in the line of service. We help them. And we're particularly interested in high school students because high school students are under a lot of stress
Mm.
and they really need some love. And I don't know what your high school teens were like, but mine were pretty rough, And
Oh,
if
yeah.
I could have had coming to school a dog, I wouldn't have missed a second, if there was a dog going to be there. And it's really beautiful, the work that we do, because not only do they get to just cuddle, but they learn social skills. They learn how to help us do the therapy dog training. So some people have decided, this is my career. This is what I want to do with my life. This is so meaningful and it's very rewarding. And we reduce stress by 62% for every hour of interaction. So we're pretty proud of that.
Wasn't aware of that. All right.
Yeah.
You're really connecting people with animals. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the name of the organization, but that's what you
Yeah.
do.
Right.
And educate. So today, the
Mhm.
sense of safety. When we say animal sense of safety, what are we talking about?
Well, it's really interesting to think about safety. So when we're working with shelter animals, for example, we work with a lot of the animals that are scared or traumatized or, just not going to make it out of the shelter because they're so scared. And lots of times people will just walk by that animal because they're just cowering in the back of their kennel and, they don't want to scare them anymore. So they just keep walking. So those are the kind of dogs that we work with. We've got one that we're fostering right now. I told you about last show on. Her name is Lulu, and she's under the desk here, and she's
Oh,
doing wonderfully. So one of the things that we noticed is that, we have all these wonderful healing techniques that we do, but nothing works until you have established a sense of safety for the animal. So an animal that hasn't been traumatized has a really good sense of safety. What I mean by that is it's literally, well, I don't know if it's literally, but I metaphorically say it's a sense, like you either feel safe or you don't feel safe. And as human beings, we have the same sense, but we're not always conscious. So we're, meeting somebody for the first time and we have a feeling, oh, this person feels like someone I can trust, or this is not someone I can trust. We have
mhm.
that sense immediately. We don't quite, articulate it or maybe even notice it, but something in our body either feels good being in the presence of this person or feels kind of uneasy. And that's really important for humans to reconnect with that, especially when, we've worked with over 4,000 service members with PTSD and their families. And so we really want to help them be able to reconnect with their sense of safety, because when people get traumatized and when animals get traumatized, they lose connection with their sense of safety. Not that they've lost it altogether, but they can't feel it. It's not reliable. So in the case of animals, like Lulu, the dog that we're sheltering now, she had zero trust in people. So people did not equal good to her. So we've had her for 3 weeks now, and for 3 weeks, we're just working on helping her find her sense of safety. And every day it grows a little bit more, and she's very loving and cuddly and sweet now. She doesn't yet trust strangers, but her reactivity to strangers is lower than it was when we first got her. So it's a slow process when you have an animal that's really been through tremendous adversity, and it's the same with people. But the notion that safety is a sense helps us to be connected to that, which allows us to make better choices. Because let's say someone comes along and they say, oh, here's this wonderful car, you should buy it. And you either get a feel this is person's trustworthy or this person's not trustworthy. And right away, we can just save a lot of time and energy because we're listening to our own sense of safety. And that's the first step when we're working with animals that have been, traumatized or very frightened, is to get them feeling their sense of safety. So right now, Lulu is still working on her sense of safety. She's under my desk, but you know what? That's fantastic because she has decided that's a safe place and she can go there as long as I'm sitting here. She's going to be there. And that's really good for her because she's choosing to go find a safe spot. And safety in the brain is actually a chemical experience, like a hormone and chemistry, brain chemistry. When we're not feeling safe, we're more likely to have more adrenaline, cortisol, and stress chemistry. But when we're feeling safe, we're going to be having serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin and all the good chemicals that make us feel good. So when she's under my desk, she's actually doing self-soothing. And that's what we want for her because I don't have enough time in the day to help her feel safe I can do it with my hands. I can give her a sense of that, but I want her to be able to go and get it for herself. So even though she's under my desk, might look like to someone else, that's a scared dog. But to me, that's a dog who's in recovery.
Oh, so sweet. And it's energy too. Aren't they picking up on energy?
It's energy. What we're talking about here is energy. I didn't want to say that word out loud, but I'm so glad you did because that's really what it is. It's love is an energy, safety is an energy, fear is an energy, judgment is an energy. All emotions are energy, and energy is contagious. So the bad energy is contagious, but the good news is the good energy is contagious. And that's one of the ways that we help animals is by giving them good energy. And our method, we have 27 principles. I'm sorry, 33 principles. I was thinking of something else. 33 principles that help us bring an animal back into their sense of safety and other aspects of well-being.
Well, it's like and you said it earlier, Jeannie, when somebody meets an animal for the first time, they like you, they don't.
Right.
They're picking up on your energy. What is energy? It's a vibration. You're sending you're transmitting a vibration. And there's nobody better in my book, in my world, than animals to receive it, process it, and act on it.
That's right.
They don't have to pay the bills. They don't have worry about car payments and all of that. They're hyper focused on all of that. And when we talk about, I've heard an animal safety tank.
Yeah.
When we talk about safety, what is that?
So that's our concept in the human animal connection, that it's kind of like the metaphor of a gas tank. So your safety tank can be completely full, completely empty, or anything in between. And as we go about our day, things happen that raise our sense of safety and lower our sense of safety. So for example, like one of the things I'm not good with is being criticized. So I'll give a talk and, 90% of the people will tell me, oh my God, that's amazing. You changed my whole life, blah, blah. And one person comes up and says, well, maybe you didn't mention such and such, or just, the littlest criticism. And all my energy goes to that, one piece of criticism. And so that lowers my safety tank. In that moment that I'm in that energy, I'm going to be less resourceful. I'm going to take things more personally. It's going to take me longer to feel better and resettle. So our safety tank is going up and down all day long. And it's the same for animals. So things happen that make them feel safe and things happen that make them feel unsafe. And that's normal and natural. But what we want to do is be paying attention to the gauge. So we might find, whenever I interact with so-and-so, I don't know what it is, but I just feel less safe. I feel more stressed. I feel criticized, or I feel misunderstood, or whatever the dynamics are in my personal relation, who I am, it's going to get triggered by so-and-so. But just knowing that is the case helps me kind of prepare myself. Okay, here comes so-and-so, and I know they're going to run this number, and I know they're probably not even aware that they're running that number, but they've got some racket going, whatever their racket is, and if I'm paying attention, I have a lot more chance of having grit or resilience to face that person's, energy where they're manipulative or critical or judgmental or whatever they've got going, But if I'm not paying attention, then I can start with a very high safety tank at the beginning of the conversation, and I can drop 50% or more just in a single conversation. And of course I can, leave that conversation, get myself back up, but it's probably going to take me longer than it took me to drop.
Totally get it. And it's funny, I had this conversation the other day with I'm going to say it again, people, energy practitioner.
Yes.
and she read my energy, and it's called chakras, and there's you can do Reiki, and that's energy healing and such. And she said to me just what you're saying in terms of my intuition is a little different. Like I use different chakras to interpret things.
Yeah,
We're all animals too, so
we are.
pretend I'm a dog.
Yeah.
Um, but she said you can spot dishonesty, and you can spot when somebody's not being trustworthy. And so what you're saying, and it could be a dog, an animal, cat, whatever. The
Yeah.
safety tank is full, but as the conversation goes on, you're like,
Right.
I'm smelling something's not
I,
real here, and
I'm slipping. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it could be somebody, yeah, not being truthful with you or withholding something that you need to say or that needs to be said. There's a lot of little things that go on in human dynamics, and even with strangers. You're standing in line at the grocery store, and somebody behind you has really funky energy. They're really stressed and they're really upset or
mm.
whatever. And sensitive people like us will feel that. And that I need to, sometimes when I'm in a situation like that in a line, I need to put up my protection energy so that I'm not as affected by that other person.
What is a trust technique practitioner?
So I am a trust technique practitioner, and this is a method. The trust technique was developed by James French, and he's an English person, and this is a wonderful training. He's kind of like my superhero when it comes to animal communication and healing animals, helping animals heal. So this is a pretty long and in-depth training that I took, and it's the foundation of the healing work that I do. Of course, I do other energy work and Reiki, as you mentioned. I do all those different things.
Oh, I
But
wasn't even aware, by the way.
oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
here I am like, yeah, I'm going to talk about energy because that's what this is.
Mhm.
And you have a PhD. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. All right. Please continue the things you learned. Okay.
Yeah, so the trust technique is all about helping animals regain trust because first we need safety. Safety is what leads to trust, and trust is what leads to healing. So I can't go in and heal an animal that doesn't trust me, that doesn't feel safe. It's not that I can't, but it's not really appropriate energetically in the universe. I mean, it's, as a responsible healer, we want to make sure that we're doing the healing work by permission, by agreement. And so one of the things we want to do is see if we can establish a sense of safety, and then the animal's able to receive the healing. So I was working with a couple yesterday they adopted a dog, thank God, because this dog had been left in a dumpster to die, and she's actually a veterinarian, and this dog was, she said, within hours of death, and she's brought him way back, and it's wonderful, but they're not familiar with this energy thing. So in that case, I asked the dog for permission to do some healing while the humans and I were just chit-chatting. And I'm not sure how good my conversation was, but I was busy working healing the animal. I had my hands on the dog and I was just doing this gentle healing work. And I didn't I mean, they brought me in to help. So it's like I had permission to do the work, but I'm not going to necessarily explain to them, hey, I'm doing energy work, because it's not necessarily something they can see. And but the animal can feel it, and you can tell this dog, who was really very hyper reactive to strangers, just completely loved me, and within a couple of minutes was just snuggling. A little pit bull, little baby pit bull. Yeah, 9 months old. Yeah.
The whole thing that we're talking about, people who heal with energy, I've talked to people that do that, and somebody that specializes in horses, and she told me a recent story where there's one particular horse, nobody could even approach it. Couldn't even get close to it, had issues, whatever they might be. And as soon as she went in, horse had never seen her before.
Yeah.
Right away became docile and was just welcoming, a little cautious, but welcoming. And it's got to be that the horse knew or picked up on the energy. Wait a minute, you're here to help me.
Yes.
I got something. All right. You know what? I'm gonna break a wall down a little bit here and allow you to get a little bit closer to me. And that's where it began. And that's where the healing began. So that's what we're talking about here in terms of the energy. Can animals have attachment disorders?
Yes, I believe they can. I mean, this is my theory, so I'm not saying that I have the science to back it up, but in my observational experience, there are some animals that have what we call a secure ability to bond, and they bond quickly and easily and deeply forever. Other animals, it's going to take them some time. Other animals, it's going to take them a very long time. So one of the things I explained to the people I was working with yesterday, because that one of the issues was integrating the dog that was in their household with the new dog they were helping. And I said, it's going to take longer, but it's going to happen. And so I evaluated their play style, how they were playing together, and whether there was give and take. And the young one, of course, probably was taken away from the mother a little early, or didn't get enough healthy maternal correction. So the new one is not good at reading the social signals when the other dog says, okay, that's enough, So it's going to take a little longer, but dogs do learn from each other. And so I explained to them that it is going to work out. It's just going to take them about 6 months before they can stop with the kind of high intensity growling and tug of war stuff. So, yeah.
You just said that dogs learn from each other in that regard. Maybe crazy question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a dog. I have 2 cats.
Yeah.
Do the cats and the dog teach each other things?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got to observe even closer.
Yeah.
And maybe the dog is showing them that this person is okay, or vice versa. I don't know what the lessons are.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised, and it's not hierarchical, like the dog is smarter or something like that. I mean, the cats may be teaching the dog as much as the dog is teaching the cat. So
Sure.
Every dog is different. Every cat is different in terms of who's kind of the teacher in the pack. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I told you the story once, but I was working with another client, and she had adopted a rescue dog that was, seriously traumatized and very strong prey drive. And she had 2 wonderful cats, and she had adopted a dog when her other dog died. The other dog got along fine with the cats. Everything was fine in the household. New dog, nothing fine. So they had to be on separate floors and, a lot of things. Right. So we started working, and things were getting better, but not better enough that we could say, okay, we can let all 3 of them be in the same room together at the same time. So we was doing some things where the cats were in a protective tent and letting the dog sniff around and going through all this. And finally I said, well, wait a minute, I'm an animal communicator. Why don't I ask the cats what they think we should do? And so I asked the cats, and they said, well, we think it should be more fair. Why don't you put the dog in the kennel and let us walk around and sniff? And it was so simple. It was like, how come we didn't think of that? But the cats just had an innate sense that it was unfair that they were being the ones always kind of sequestered, and so that the dog could get used to them, and so on and so forth. So it pays to ask a cat, because cats often have incredibly profound intuition and wisdom. And so it'd be interesting in your house to see who's, there may be some of each. The dogs may be teaching the cats, and the cats may be teaching the dog, but it'll be interesting to start observing their behavior and see what next time when we talk, you can tell me what you noticed.
Oh, totally. And you just brought up a quick thought. When we talk to our animals, how should we be doing it?
Yeah. So first of all, just like with humans, every animal is a little different. So I have some animals that will talk to me just like you and I are talking right now. Complete exchange. I ask a question, they answer it. Some animals will communicate to me in pictures. Some animals will communicate to me in what I call data download, which means that I get all of the information like in an instant, not like in a sentence, like, Bob hit the car, whatever. It's not like, in a sequence. It's just the whole thing. Bob hit the car is like all one piece of information. So every animal communicates a little bit differently, and every person communicates to their animal a little differently. So some people used to say, well, animals communicate in pictures. And my answer to that is some do, and then other people will say animals communicate in words. Well, some do. So there's a lot of uniqueness, and even the nature of, just like you and I have personalities, and like you could spot me in a crowd because you know me a little bit here. They have their own unique communication style. So I have some dogs. There's one dog that I'm working with, a very traumatized dog that had been in a puppy mill, and it's taking a lot of work to help her recover. But whenever she communicates, it's like Zen Buddha talking, you know what I mean? Like really, really wise. Another horse, there's this horse named Blue that I work with, and he's 40 years old because he's on like all this like high tech, healthy, homemade, really good food, not just like throw him the hay, right? He gets like all these nutrients. And so he's 40 years old. And he will only talk to me if I'm in my highest state of mind, like whatever my highest level of peace and tranquility and simplicity. He will only talk to me if I'm at a certain level. And then he tells me stuff that's like, will knock me on my ass for 2 weeks in a good way, just kind of like really like, wow, like, wow, man. But if I'm like in just a casual chatty mood, he won't talk to me for like 2-3 months. He'll wait till I get back to the peaceful state. And then he like just really, it's interesting how
Wow.
yeah. So that's Blue. So, and then the next horse will just, Ralph will just talk to me whenever I talk to him. And Ralph will talk to me even when we're not together. So I was doing one session with the client, and all of a sudden Ralph came in and answered. She was, what should I do about this, that, and the other thing? And Ralph came in and said, oh, here's what you should do. And it was like completely right. And I just said, I don't know if you'll believe this, but Ralph just told me. So it's kind of funny.
I believe it. And
Yeah.
I'm blown away here, Jeannie, because I know you have the organization, you connect people together. I didn't know that you also have a deep knowledge of energy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is so impactful when we talk about animals. Have some time left. So
Okay.
animal
Okay.
soul retrieval. Heard of
Yes.
it before, kind of have an idea of what it is. Tell
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So some animals who've been through really severe trauma, we're talking like on the severe, I won't tell you any details, but the severe trauma sometimes can get like, just like a person who's had like major sexual abuse can kind of leave their bodies, as it were. I mean, not literally their bodies, but disconnect from their sense of self. And so what happens, in the case of these animals, and these are animals like, they're just like what we call pancake dogs. They just lay on the floor. They don't want to interact. They're not interested in treats. They don't want to be touched. They don't want eye contact. They don't respond to you. They're really far gone. And in these cases, what I've noticed is that they no longer experience their connection with their soul. Doesn't mean that their soul is disconnected from them, but they can no longer feel their connection to their soul, which means they have no sense of safety. They have no desire to be here. They feel completely alone. They have no sense of connection with anybody, even themselves, right? It's like, what a person would commit suicide at that point, right? So this is the human equivalent of wanting to not even be here, and they will literally not eat or eat minimally or whatever. And so with these animals, I've done some soul retrieval work where basically I connect with their soul and invite their soul to come back in and help, because sometimes the soul is very polite. It will not intervene unless you ask for help. They're not going to just come rescue you. I mean, sometimes they do, but lots of times they just need hey, I need help here. You know what I mean? Like that first step of the 12-step program or something, it's just like, hey, I have a problem. So these animals, and there was one dog I was working with in the shelter that I was doing this work with, and I'm thinking, I don't know if what I'm doing is doing any good at all, because there was like no response. The session number 1, no response. Session number 2, maybe a little response. Session number 3, okay, maybe it's working, right? Finally, we got to the point where the dog got really reconnected. And a lot of it isn't even when I'm in the room. So I'll start the process. I'll go away, come back the next day, and I say, okay, well, this is just a little bit better. Like she's willing to take a treat that I throw on the floor, not willing to approach, willing to let me approach, but now she's accepting a treat that I toss on the floor. And pretty soon she'll take that treat from my hand. And pretty soon I start to see that she's doing better. And this was a dog that you might say, all dogs are beautiful, but this was not a beautiful dog. Like this was really a kind of looked like an African dingo, and black dogs get harder chances getting adopted. This was not looking like a good, chance. And she had an eye thing, big bulging eye. Anyway, I was working on her, and like it was about 3 weeks and she got adopted. I didn't get to see who came and adopted her, but somebody just felt like, this is my dog, of all the, dogs in the shelter, somebody came in, because I think this dog was now reconnected with her essence and her soul. And that person was able to experience the sweetness that was really hidden before. It was very hidden. So
And you know what it probably was? The energy.
what? Yep, the energy.
It
It's
felt
the energy.
the energy. Because I always say, and I'm super humble, I rarely do this to myself, but my animals, when I speak of them,
Yeah.
they're all the same. They
Yeah.
have the same loving mushiness,
Mhm.
obedient, whatever you want to describe it. And I think I have a knack for certain energy
Yeah,
to
I think so
receive
too.
and pick them
think so
out.
too.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're the one, or you're
Yeah.
the one. And
Yeah.
I got, or I'm damn lucky, but I don't think that's it.
I don't think
really
it's
don't.
luck. You may be lucky, but that's not what we're talking about here. When we're talking about that connection, is what it is that you are open in your heart in a way that animals can see, feel, and touch. And, they can feel that you are a person who is a loving, understanding, connected person, and they want it. I'm surprised all the animals don't want you, but it's good. You can't take 500 animals home with you from
No.
the shelters. So, you do what you can. You take the one you can. So, yeah, it's wonderful. No, it's not luck. I'll tell you, it's not luck.
Yeah. I
mean,
don't believe it is either.
Maybe there's a piece of luck in there, but it's the smallest piece of the pie. The bigger piece is.
I looked at pictures of them. I even felt, I think, the energy coming through there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm also the guy, you walk down the street and somebody has a dog and the dog's like turning her head looking at me, and
Yeah,
I think
aw.
they're picking up on something. And I'm like, hey, how you
Well, I
doing?
do. I always send them energy when I'm walking down the street or I see a
Yes.
dog in another situation. It may not be appropriate to approach, or maybe the owner is not open to it, or who knows. So I just give them a little energetic hug and kiss, just a sweetness, an exchange. And they look at me like, thank you.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And anybody that is watching or listening and thinking these two people are
Oh,
out there.
yeah.
No, it's been scientifically proven this energy thing is real. Some Albert Einstein, something, he was a proponent of starting the groundwork for letting people know that we are energy.
Mhm.
We're out of time.
Okay.
How do we find you and the organization?
So we are the Human Animal Connection, emphasis on the, because if you just put in Human Animal Connection, they'll take you somewhere else. So we're thehumanimalconnection.org. And you can also read my book, The Human Animal Connections, available on Amazon. And you can talk to me on the web. You can give me an email and we'll chat.
Love it.
Yep.
I love what you do. I love talking with you, Jeannie. I love you even more after today's talk because we got the energy thing going on here. And
yeah.
I never realized that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about animal communication in other shows.
I would love to. Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.